Okay, finally, we're in the epilogue. Now, some time has passed since Frank's suicide, and the Haydens are moving out of their house and out of Bent Rock altogether. It's decided that the circumstances of Frank's death are going to be exaggerated. It's decided that he was helping Wesley build shelves in the basement before slipping from a ladder and just cracking his head. His crimes would also not be revealed since he could no longer hurt anyone, and there was no point in dividing the town. So there was no point kind of triggering that civil unrest and that social division that we were talking about a little bit earlier. Now, to no surprise whatsoever, the Hayden family has a big falling out with one another. They sit together at the funeral, but they're apart at the burial with the grave between them. David comments, "Even I understood the symbolism. Frank's death was an unbridgeable gulf between us." Now, Wesley withdraws from the upcoming election, and Len, his deputy, is in place to assume his role as sheriff, and the Haydens say their goodbyes to everyone, which apparently isn't a lot of people. And in any case, they head for Gail's parents, who they stay with until they find a new home. Now, David also lies to his friends and tells them that it's likely he will move back the following summer because, he wanted to ease the emotionalism of his farewells. Apparently has a tough time saying goodbye. Anyway, as the Haydens are leaving the house in their packed car, David jumps out, wanting one last look at their home. When he looks back at his parents, he considers, "I wondered again how it could have happened, how it could be that those two people who only wanted to do right, whose only error lay in trying to be loyal to both family and justice, were now dispossessed, the ones forced to leave Bent Rock and build new lives." Now, following this, he thinks of his parents as those two hapless, forlorn people. What kind of life would it be traveling in their company? So in some sense, he entertains the thought of not going with them. Wow. For shame, David. For shame. Now, after spending the winter with Gail's parents, the Haydens move to Fargo in the spring. Wesley gets a job with a small law office and becomes a named partner within 5 years, so Gail gets her wish. He's now a lawyer. She teases David about following in Wesley's footsteps, but he says that he's not interested. He writes, "After what I observed as a child in Bent Rock, I could never believe in the rule of law again." Which is, fair enough. As such, he doesn't know what he wants to do with himself, but eventually he becomes a history teacher, even though he is somewhat skeptical of history's accuracy. He says, "I did not, and do not, believe in the purity and certainty of the study of history over law. Not at all. Quite the opposite. I find history endlessly amusing, knowing, as I do, that the record of any human community might omit stories of sexual abuse, murder, suicide. Who knows? Perhaps any region's most dramatic, most sensational stories were not played out in the public view, but were confined to small, private places." Now, David also comments on the others from Bent Rock. His grandmother, Eden Hayden, writes to them regularly, but she doesn't mention what happened in 1948. Gloria, Frank's wife, remarries, and Len is unable to complete his term in office because he suffers a stroke. Now, Julian, the grandfather, also has a stroke and passes away 3 days later. So David surmises that they died from keeping the secret about my Uncle Frank. As we knew from the start, Wesley also passes away due to cancer. Now, David remembers a time when he was younger, practicing drop-kicking a football before being encountered by Marie and her boyfriend, Ronnie Tallbear. They play with a football together, and David remarks that this is his happiest memory. That is, that he has of Marie. He writes, "I felt that what we played, more accurately how we played, had its origin in Ronnie and Marie's Indian heritage, but I had no way of knowing that with any certainty. All I could be sure of was that I never had more fun playing ball, any kind of ball, in my life." Now, he also says of this memory, "I felt, for that brief span, as though I were part of a family that accepted me for myself and not my blood or birthright." Now, moving fully into the present day, remember that story that we've just heard is 40 years prior to the present. David tells us about his wife, Betsy, who is also a teacher. He tells of how they spent the summer photographing her hometown, which prompted a discussion between them about his own hometown, which prompted the story of what happened in 1948. But this only fascinates her. At the next family Thanksgiving, Betsy mentions this to the Haydens, and Wesley, despite having been through a cancer surgery at this point, he gets pretty incensed and he slams his fist down on the table and simply says, "Don't blame Montana." And he says this before he leaves, and he doesn't return for the meal. Now, the final lines of the book are David returning to that table when everyone else is asleep in bed. He writes, "I sat in the chair where my father sat, and lightly put my hands on the table. For an instant, I thought I felt the wood still vibrating from my father's blow." So again, a bit of symbolism in there, but I'm going to let you interpret that however you see fit. And that is the end of our story. I hope you liked it. I hope you made sense of it. I hope you followed this series and that it was useful to you. Hopefully it's given you a good sense of what the story is about, or alternatively, hopefully it helped you revise what you already knew about the text, and you picked up on a couple of things you might have missed. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later. Bye!